So I know you have a background in performance art, but I would love to get your, I guess, more expand on your creative background for the audience and I to know a little bit more about what has Dennis done?
Yeah, that's a really good start. So I grew up in this area. I was lucky to grow up here. I lived in Lake Luzerne first and then moved to Queensbury with my family and was always into music and theater. So got involved at a very, very young age and then turned that into a career. I decided to continue my studies. I went to NYU, studied drama at the Tisch School of the Arts, and then soon after I got out of college, I landed my first talent agent and started acting in New York City. So I was going into off-Broadway shows and Broadway shows and then touring the country and North America with various Broadway productions. And it was just such a thrilling experience for me, and it's really what formed me in so many ways. And then...
Well, actually, let's back up. I want the audience to know exactly what Broadway plays were you in and how did that look like?
Yeah, well, so I started off in the off-Broadway world, I guess, in New York City. So I was in Fame the Musical, and then did a production called Altar Boys. I was the Jewish member of a Christian boy band. So it was a really funny spoof on like boy bands back in that time. And then I started getting into Broadway shows. I did Mary Poppins on Broadway for a long time and then toured North America with it. Went from Canada to Mexico and everywhere in between.
Wow.
And it was just awesome. And then I could say one of the pinnacles came in 2014. I was cast in the revival of Les Miserables on Broadway and got to perform on the Tony Awards and open the show and play a number of different roles in the show. So I was the Thénardier understudy, so we got to go on for him, which was so fun so many times. And it was when I got to that point, I was like, wow, this is what I wanted to do for so long, and I'm so lucky and fortunate that I got here.
What attracted you to performance art and stage work? Like anything in particular? Like what about it brought you joy, and why did it bring you joy?
I mean, so many things, but I would say like the two main things are, number one, just that magic spark that you feel when you are in the moment. For me, that was just so addictive. I just didn't want to stop. The other thing was community. It was, for me as a young kid, I was not the typical young male boy, I guess you could say. I was very, very different from the rest. So I found my community through the arts, really, and that's where my people were, and really that helped develop my self-esteem and self-confidence and so many other things as a young kid, which is so important,
It really is.
at an early
It really
age.
is. The arts really does help lots of youth.
Yeah.
Even myself. I found myself fully immersed when I was younger, and I'm like, I do not know what I would do if I wasn't introduced to art early
same.
on.
Yeah,
I would have
be
been
lost.
miserable.
Yes.
So it's very important.
Yeah.
So what made you make the switch to focusing on arts education, and why?
I felt like I got to a point where I was like, I feel good about what I've accomplished as an actor. The other thing was I really wanted to have kids. Mm-hmm. So I'm married, my husband and I were living in a 600 square foot apartment in Brooklyn. So we just kind of did the math and like, this isn't gonna work, and we know that it's great to have a support system when you have kids.
Yes.
So 8 years ago we moved up here to be closer to family for that reason. Now we have 2 young kids, young, beautiful kids we adopted.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And is there something about arts education that brings you joy, like internal joy? Like what about it attracted you to it?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it because I didn't really know, to be honest, what I was going to do when I moved back here. And I was just looking for somewhere where I could put my creative energy, so it was, what does that mean in the Capital Region? And I just happened to work at SPAC for a summer season. They were looking for people. And at the end of that summer, I was asked to stay on full time and just build education programs. And I had never done that before. I was terrified. And you know that saying, like, when you're terrified, you should do it. Like, you know,
Yes,
so
immersion.
exactly. So I just jumped in and fell in love with it. And it became, I became so passionate about it because I think for the most part, because I get to now provide children that experience that I had as a kid, what really transformed me and formed me into who I was.
So as the Vice President of Education for SPAC, which is Saratoga Performing Arts Center, how do you utilize that position to foster positive change within the arts, I guess, education sector within upstate New York?
Well, that's a great question. So I think first and foremost, what I sought to do was to really get out in the community, meet everybody I could possibly meet, and just find out what people needed and what other organizations needed. So I met with so many nonprofits, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCA's, the Girls Incorporated, and ended up meeting with more than 140 different nonprofit organizations,
Wow.
and eventually working with them all. And the first question I always asked them was, how can we bring the arts to the populations that you serve? And then we just came up with programs that essentially did that. You really have to know what people want rather than just imposing on them, like, this is what I think you are going to like. It's like, no.
That's not how it works.
So I end up doing very little like musical theater because there is such a wealth of that here. There are so many musical theater opportunities for youth and for adults. So I ended up going in other directions that is not really my primary background as an artist, because that's where the need was.
So how do you build accessibility pieces into some of the programs that you run? I know you run a lot of programs for like youth and adults, if you want to glance over those, but how do you make this accessible for all folks?
So I think that is every educator's biggest challenge and mission. It's so important, it takes a lot of work, a lot of educating yourself, of course, because things are always changing, so you can't stop learning about how to make things accessible, because we are learning as a society ourselves how to be more welcoming and be more inclusive to everybody. So really making sure you are constantly educating yourself is, I think, number one, the most important thing. And the other thing is, again, knowing your community, and finding out who lacks access to what you're providing and why that is. So if it's transportation, and that's all that's preventing some children from getting into an arts program, how do we provide transportation? If they just don't feel welcome in the class because they don't want to wear like a leotard and tights, that's not comfortable for them. We provide classes where there is not a dress code like that. Like, you wear what you are comfortable with, So it's all about creating those environments where people feel welcome and safe.
So what are some programs and events that you want to let the audience know about that you got going on?
In the fall, on September 11th, our fall semester at the SPAC School of the Arts begins.
Awesome.
So people can register for music, theater, dance classes for all ages, all abilities.
That's amazing.
At the SPAC School.
And don't you have a tuition supporting program as well?
Yes, thank you.
There you
Yes.
go.
So again, we want to make sure that these programs are accessible to everybody. At our School of the Arts, we do have to charge tuition because of the nature of that programming, but we have a tuition assistance program that is fully funded and is open to anybody who needs that support in order to access the classes there.
Well, that's awesome, Dennis.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I'm super happy to visit SPAC soon.
Great. Thanks, Jade.